Welcome to the end of the world, survivors. You're tuned into the last voice on the airwaves, Harper, or as I've come to call myself, DJ Clueless, broadcasting from a radio station that still hums with life. I'm no longer alone, but winter is hard and the undead still roam outside. This is where we fight back. I'll be your guide through the madness, sharing survival tips, locations of safe havens, and the occasional existential crisis. The world's gone dark, and the dead outnumber the living, but there are some of us ready to fight back and to rebuild some of what we've lost. The only real question is, what's next? Stay tuned to Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio. Stick around if you're still alive. And that was The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot. Welcome back, survivors. It is Harper, or DJ Clueless, and I am happy to be here. And where we left off in our story is the alarms started going off, but before that, I had woken up in sheer terror. Sheer, unadulterated terror, just certain the zombies were going to get me. Now, one of the things about the plant is Malcolm has taken defenses rather seriously. There are barricades upon barricades. There are several lines of fence and a lot of other protections. So when the alarms go off, what it means is at least one of those protections has failed. Anybody who is vetted has to, do 4 hours of guard duty. And there are guard towers all over the place. I say all over the place, there are several. And Malcolm wants me to keep the exact defenses vague. But the alarms went off because the guards could not handle the influx of zombies. And one of the lines of fence had a breach. Now, there are still a couple more perimeter fences that they have to get through before they can actually get to the plant proper. But even having a breach of one of the fence lines is pretty serious. It means there is a crap ton of zombies. And a crap ton of zombies is a big problem because of the Z fear. It creeps into your mind and it really affects you. And it includes affecting shooting and a bunch of other things. So at any rate, if the alarm went off, it means that there were enough zombies to warrant it. And it's an all hands on deck situation. I've been to the plant enough times that I know the protocols, because you can believe that Malcolm runs drills. We all had those fire drills and tornado drills when we were in school. Or maybe I'm dating myself. Do they still do tornado drills? It was about the same as duck and cover as far as effectiveness in my mind, but regardless, we had drills and he would wake us up in the middle of the night. And I knew that this was not a drill because I could feel the zombies. I could feel them trying to get into my head, get into the property, get to us. They felt angry. And I'll be real honest, normally the zombies don't feel angry. Normally the zombies just feel hungry. It's like they want to bite you. They're not hungry for flesh. They're hungry for bite. I do not understand the zombies, nor will I ever pretend to. But I do know that when I was woken up in the middle of the night, it took me a good half a minute to move. And in the really real world, before the zombie apocalypse, there was an alarm and I was moving before I was even awake. In the world of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, I was flight. I would run. At one point, I joked about wanting to be a haunted house hunter, and Mitch basically said to me, "Oh, That would be great. You'd go to a haunted house and then there'd just be a Harper-shaped hole in the wall where you ran screaming from it. And, he wasn't wrong because flight, anything spooked me, I would run. So me being frozen for 30 seconds, which doesn't sound long when I'm sitting here saying it to you, but in a zombie fight is eternity. It is the difference between living and dying. It is the difference between surviving and becoming a mindless zombie. So 30 seconds, and that causes its own fear. So you have fear upon fear magnified with all of this, which I think is part of the intention. I think there's a certain amount where our fear feeds the zombies' agenda. And I know, zombies are mindless. They don't have an agenda. But the way this horde came at us from literally every possible side it could was insane. It was crazy. It was not mindless. It felt very purposeful, very focused. So, uh, I have a particular position that I am to take. So once I got my body moving, I was able to run to the armory. I had weapons on me. Malcolm insists upon that. But with the armory, you can get better weapons and a lot more ammo. And, I ended up grabbing a few weapons and helping one of the people at the plant carry an ammo box up to our spot. And when I said, "Oh my God, we need an ammo box," and she said if we could carry 3, we would need 3. There'll be some runners bringing us more. And this is the thing that Malcolm does that is pretty smart. He has different people doing different things. There were people on the ground with long, he had them make pikes. And I know this isn't exactly what a pike is, but they're just long metal with a sharp end on it that you can stab a zombie through the head with if you have the upper body strength. And not everybody does. In the movies and TV shows, it's like they have paper mache skulls, but getting metal through bone is not as easy as that. And so the pikers are usually whoever is buff and strong enough to spear through bone with a metal sharpened stick. So that is what we have going on. We have those down on the ground at the second perimeter fence, piking, and then we have all of the people in the towers and all of the tall barricades. That is where I was positioned with a lot of others, and we're just shooting as many zombies as we can as quickly as we can. So we have those with guns shooting. We have pikers on the ground. There are people who are running ammo and weapons various places. And there are people who are in the kitchens cooking food because we could not see an end to the zombie swarm. It was endless. It was like an ocean of zombies attacking us. And wave upon wave kept crashing and destroying the defenses. And it was very difficult to stand there, shoot, and not panic. And I feel like I probably panicked a few times and just shot a little faster because of it. Because there wasn't anything to do. There were a lot of us, but the zombies probably had 500 on each person. So every one person needed to take out about 500 zombies. And I tried not to let that math affect me as I spent hours trying to kill these zombies, and we were effective. We did a lot. And Jim, actually, at least I assume it was Jim, since he's somebody who seems to be pretty big on explosives. I am assuming he coordinated this with Malcolm because he'd need to get the materials from Malcolm. But he started I don't even know. I launching bombs, and it wasn't through like a rocket launcher or anything like that. It was all improvised by Jim. And so a lot of the further away zombies, because he tried to make sure that we weren't going to be caught up in a an explosion blast wave, and we weren't. So he got a lot of the zombies that were further afield and was able to take out huge chunks that way. And I don't know if that would have been effective long term, but it was incredibly effective for morale. Every time one of those explosions went off and we got to see, 50 to 100 zombies just annihilated, it was great. We would whoop for joy, and we're all wearing ear protection. And, we can't really hear each other, but I could hear everybody cheering every time one of those bombs went off. And it was a morale booster in a big way. So after about 4 hours of being up there, my replacement comes, and I told them, no, I'm fine. I can keep shooting. And they said, no, no, you're done for 4 hours. And I'm like, shouldn't we all be shooting? And I was told, no, because this is going to be a battle that lasts several days. So you are taking a break, you are eating food, and if you can nap, you are napping. And so I left. I went to their cafeteria. I did not realize that I was starving. I had no idea how hungry I was, but I sat down and ate a whole bunch of food because it was just, oh, I needed food so bad. And even through eating food, the fear is there, the terror is there. So I ate the food. I went to the kitchen and helped with the kitchen staff, both cleaning up from one meal and helping prepare for another. Um, I asked Malcolm if there was anything I could do, and he said that I could run food up to various people. So, me and the rest of the people who had been taking a break from being on the shooting lines started doing food running. Um, because a lot of the people who replaced us had been doing something else before they came to replace us, so they didn't get a chance to eat either. So a lot of people ended up with, a sandwich in one hand and a gun in the other, which made for some very inaccurate shooting. So there were a few people where I took their gun and shot while they wolfed down some food. One person drank a cup of soup so quickly they had to have scalded their throat, but we were all on the verge of panic. We were all right on that knife's edge of falling into panic and being useless versus being able to hold everything together. And part of the problem with quelling the unreasonable fear, or reasonable, is that most of us who were up high on the walls could tell there was no escape. There was no retreat. There were zombies every direction you could see, and there was no way to get out. You know, it wasn't quite a Helm's Deep situation, because at least they could retreat into the mountains and caves and all of that. But with this, there was no place to retreat to. Malcolm has bandied about the idea of using tunneling underground to escape in this situation, but he hasn't had the manpower and time and, honestly, engineering to do it. Because when it comes to that kind of tunneling, you need to make sure that you're doing it in the right places, that you're not, messing up the structural integrity of anything above it. I lived in coal country for a while, and there were a lot of houses that sank due to mining underneath, and he didn't want to tunnel underneath the buildings of the plant and have those buildings then start to have foundational collapse. So he was still trying to figure that out. This is a Malcolm shout out. Anybody who is an engineer, civil, electrical, mechanical, whatever kind of engineer you are, even if it is an engineer who drives a train, Malcolm is interested and you should go to the plant. But that aside, he hadn't gotten around to doing it. So we're looking out at this ocean of zombies. And my estimates might be incorrect. Malcolm at one point said it was more like 2,000 to 1 than 500 to 1. But I think all of that is conjecture. It wasn't like we had time to stop and count heads. So the panic was real, and everyone was trying so hard to fight past it, to be on the other side of the panic, to not let it mess us all up. But panic doesn't really work that way. So it was a very, very, very long night. I think we went through quite a lot of our flares. There was even some phosphorus flares that were thrown. And so it was a weird, wild night, my friends. It was it was one of those nights where sitting here talking to you, I am still surprised that I survived. I'm still surprised anybody survived because it wasn't something that looked survivable. But I had a job to do. Everybody else had a job to do. And so we focused on the work. And I focused on running food everywhere. Thank God I'd been running in the zombie apocalypse for so long that I had stamina for it because I spent probably a good 6 hours running food, running supplies, food, water, bullets, all kinds of things. All kinds of weird supplies to gym too. It felt like every 20 or 30 minutes, somebody else handed me a weird box of things to take to gym so he could do something with them. So yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And eventually I was told that I needed to go to sleep, whether I could sleep or not, that I needed to go to my room and lay down for 6 hours because I had the next shift, and that shift wouldn't be 4 hours, it would be 6 or 7. So I tried to sleep, and all of my dreams were of zombies. And the zombies were trying to talk me into coming out there. They wanted me to climb the fence and join them. And it wasn't something that was said, it was a magnetic pull in the dream where wouldn't life be easier if you were with us? Wouldn't life be so much simpler if you didn't have to worry? Wouldn't life be so much simpler if all you had to do was bite? And I gotta tell you, in the in the wee hours of the morning, trying to sleep, there was a part of me that's like, yes, it would be easier. It would be so easy to give up. It would be so easy to just stop fighting, to give in, to just let the zombies happen. But every time that thought entered my mind, I would bolt upright awake. It was like that thought would occur, and it was almost like a shock would happen to my system, and I would wake up. And, I would wake up going, no, no, that was dreamland thinking. That was dream time thinking. That was not sane, rational Harper thinking. So, I would have preferred to go without sleep, I think, because yes, I got a little bit of rest and my body did need that rest, but I'm trying not to curse here. Uh, so apologies, but the mental mind fuck that sleeping was so much worse than looking out at the ocean of zombies. Because when you're looking out at the ocean of zombies, they don't have will, they don't have thought, they're mindless. Now, these zombies' eyes glowed red, and I have often wondered if that was an illusion, if that was something that my fevered, freaked out, lonely brain came up with, because I've seen it before, but I've been alone most of the time. And this time, it was real easy to shoot these zombies because you just looked for the red and shot it, you know? Uh, but it didn't keep the effect from being any less insanely terrifying. Why are their eyes glowing red? Why? Where is the glow coming from? What is the purpose of it? Why do they only glow red when they're in a group like this? Like, if the zombies were viral, I feel like their actions would make sense. But the fact that they don't make sense makes me think it's a supernatural kind of thing. I mean, I have the power to apparently force people to see the truth about themselves. That's not science, right? That's more of a supernatural thing. So, you're shooting, you're shooting, you're shooting, but you're also thinking all of these thoughts. Um, in the daylight, the zombie's eyes still looked red, but it didn't have that glowing that you can really only see at night. It's the difference between pointing a laser dot at high noon and pointing a laser dot at midnight. One you see very clearly, the other one not so much. But my next shift was crazy and tiring and endless. And it did not feel like I was making any headway with the zombies whatsoever. I did a full 6 hours. There were some people who hadn't gotten a break and were very, very, very relieved when I showed up because they were told their shift would be 4 hours and it ended up being more like 8 because we had a few people go crazy. Um, the dreams that I had where the zombies without words were calling to me. The best I can think is maybe this is how the sirens appeared to the sailors of old, singing to us to come out there without actually making a sound. It was unsettling. And we lost a few people trying to climb the fence, and they had to be put in quarantine, for lack of a better phrase. There isn't really like a jail cell at Malcolm's, but there are some hospital medical rooms that you can lock up because people going crazy in the zombie apocalypse is as normal as breathing. Because why wouldn't you go crazy? This is a crazy making thing. This whole evening of attack was and is still one of the craziest experiences I've ever had because the zombies were not going to stop. I don't know why they decided all of a sudden to come at Malcolm's. There were so many of them, and I talk about Malcolm having a lot of people, but Malcolm has a lot of people in comparison to the station. In comparison to my settlement, it feels like he has a huge group of people, but compared to the zombie horde, he absolutely did not. Compared to what the world was before, he did not have a huge amount of people. I mean, that's part of why a lot of my broadcasts, I'm asking for people to come. I'm asking for people to show up. It doesn't matter if you have a skill set. It doesn't matter anything except that you are alive. And, even if you can only help mentally, mental help is better than no help. So, it felt like there were a lot more people there. But when he was down 5, 10 people, things became a lot more spread out and the shifts kind of didn't fall apart, but were definitely extended. My 6-hour shift turned into 8, but that's okay because I was in the zone. um, and even within that time period, you have to take breaks. Your hands hurt, your fingers hurt, your shoulder hurts. I think every single one of us that was using any kind of rifle has basically a bruise on our shoulder where the rifle butt attached. Because if you've never shot guns before, rifles have a kick. And Malcolm doesn't allow anybody on the wall who hasn't shot guns before. It was actually pretty funny the first time I met him. He was trying to vet me for guard duty, and he's like, "Do you know how to shoot?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm from the Midwest." And he's like, "Honey, there are people in Texas who have never shot a gun before." And so I actually had to go with Malcolm and prove I could shoot, which was lucky because I was able to be up there for a while. But I did have to take breaks because it was sore. Your back is screaming, your legs are screaming, your whole body's screaming. It's not the type of positioning where you can lay down and shoot from a laid down position. You're standing the whole time because of the way it's designed, you know. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't want to lay down. I wanted to be on my feet in case I needed to run. I have no idea where I thought I was going to run to, but away. I would run away, I don't know where, because there wasn't any place to go. And that was the part that was the most deeply upsetting and disturbing of the whole thing, is that there really wasn't anywhere to go. So we we stayed and fought and fought and fought. And I did reach a point where I realized that we were going to lose. I have no idea how much ammo Malcolm has. I know how much ammo the station has. And I went through pretty much what would be the equivalent in my first 4-hour shift. So the next 6 hours, the fact that ammo kept coming, I don't know how Malcolm's doing it. I don't know what kind of ammo cache he found, or if he was just really, really prepared. But luckily, I was able to keep shooting. And at the end of that 8-hour shift, I was able to sleep. I wasn't able to do any food running or water running or any of that. I took a shower because I needed the hot water to get my muscles a little bit looser. I was given 5 hours to sleep, and I took them. I took every single bit of them. And, I was woken up at a knock at the door. One of the nice things was this time I didn't have any zombie dreams. I think my body and my mind was so exhausted that I was able to actually sleep. And that was lucky because the next day it became even more apparent that we were going to lose. We were going to lose. In the 4 hours I slept, we lost another dozen people to what Malcolm's calling zombie madness. I want to be one with the zombies is not something we thought that we would have to deal with. And it was upsetting to lose a few of our best shots to that. I think if I didn't have the whole being jerked awake every time my brain thought, oh, that's a good idea, I probably would have been right there with them, sitting in straitjackets in their makeshift hospital or clinic or whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, that was basically the first day of the siege. And I'm going to end this now. And if you want to hear part 2, you will survive another week. You know you can. But I want to say, there are times where survival seems really insane. There are times where the place where you happen to be is no longer safe, and there's just enemies as far as the eye can see. But if I had given up then, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. So between now and next week, you have one job. Survive, survive, survive. This is DJ Clueless, and I will tell you what happens next week. This is Harper signing off for now. Remember, the world is still turning, even if it feels like we're standing still. Survive, adapt, endure. As the dust settles, we are rising again. We are rebuilding from the ashes. Until then, keep moving, keep fighting, and whatever you do, survive.